I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
2, 3, hey!
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Vostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead on today's edition, Rethinking Obamacare with Bob Moffit of the Heritage Foundation. Also making sure you get safely home, Sheri Howell from MedJet. A little later on, Dinesh D'Souza and his brand new film, and Al Pitrelli from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, along with Ann Wilson in the Spotlight. And now, from Times Square, the man who's personally financially backing all of Zohran Mamdani's promises, here's the Kevin!
All right. Welcome to the weekend. Couldn't be happier than to have you here. Kevin McCullough. That Kevin Show coming to a radio station near you Monday. The wait is over. All of you places outside of New York City that have been wondering who's this loudmouth? What's he all about? You're about to find out. And we're gonna have a lot of fun starting Monday, 2 to 4 Eastern. Sometimes it's tape delayed or played in other day parts in other cities, but we're so glad to have you with us. And I am so glad that I get to now harass you on a 6 out of 7 day week rotation. This is going to be beautiful. And in some places, because the TV show, which is also a radio broadcast, kind of goes coast to coast all weekend long. Technically, I could say 7 days a week. 7 days a week, you're not going to be able to deal with how much common sense and truth we are pumping into your life. And I just hope that you will give me a chance. Let me do my honest bidding. If you've read me at Town Hall for the last 10 years, if you've been listening to me in any degree on the Salem News Channel or BizTV, and you've been thinking, I got to check out that daily show. Well, now it's going to be on a station near you. We're in all of the top 50 markets, or so I'm told. So we're looking forward to blanketing the U.S. with common sense coming up very, very shortly. Common sense, not a high priority for someone like Zohran Mamdani, who I don't know if you saw. He kind of went hat in hand to the White House on Friday. And it's kind of interesting to see the difference in the candidate, Zohran Mamdani, to the guy that won the night of the election to who this person is now. Because I have no real clue which one is the real guy. The candidate was like fake smile everywhere all the time. He just couldn't stop smiling. It was so fake. It was big, fat, fake smile on it. And then the night he wins the election, he's like... I don't know, Mussolini doing his speech in World War II. Like, we will show you when it will happen and it will be done. And then he realizes and starts looking at budgets and stuff and realizes, I don't really know what I'm doing here. And he literally starts telling people, hey, you know, we asked you to stop sending, start sending us some money again. Last week, we parodied him with the Al Berry cartoon asking for pocket change from Bernie Sanders and AOC because he made a lot of promises. And even now, even this week, he's saying, I don't know, I may have trouble on the free bus thing. And I don't know how that works. See, this is the problem, New York. You want to be the greatest city in the world. You want to, I guess, on some level, you have a compassionate reason for wanting to be the most generous city in the world and giving everything away for free. But life doesn't really work that way. And until you kind of like shift how you think you're going to be able to do it to the way that it actually works, then you're going to be in trouble. Now, you can promise and promise and promise in an election that you're going to give things to people, but it's going to take them about 72 hours of you being in office for them to realize you were just full of it. And isn't that the problem to begin with? Isn't the problem that we have the far left who will literally promise everything to get elected? They get elected and break their promise and then turn around and blame the Republicans for it. They say, well, the Republicans, the right, the MAGA, the Trump, the people, they hate you. The 70% of the country that voted in favor of Trump for the, well, they're the ones that hate you. That's why they're not giving you all the free stuff. Well, no, wait a second. Maybe that's not because giving people free stuff is very good public policy. Bernie Sanders this last week down in the well of the Senate, just before the filibuster got broken, he said, well, we're the only top country in the world that doesn't give health care to everybody all the time. And I'm like, that's not even true, Bernie. The reason that healthcare, part of the reason that the healthcare is so expensive in the U.S. is that people use the emergency room for their free healthcare. And they're not allowed to turn them away. So in essence, everyone does have healthcare access. The problem is it's not efficient. It's not incentivized the right way. And people's corruption gets in the way when they start seeing how many dollars, 1/5 of the whole economy is attached to it. This is why we're going to talk to Bob Moffit, PhD, today about what Obamacare actually, how badly it's proven itself to fail, and why we really need to revisit the subsidies fight that we had for the whole entirety of the shutdown was a worthy fight. Because the Democrats are out there saying people earning $400,000 a year deserve Obamacare. And they don't. They don't. I know people that make $400,000. They don't need Obamacare. 22-year-old men are never going to have babies. So give that up. The Emu and Doug, they have it right. Only pay for what you need. That's how healthcare should be set up. And so we're going to talk with an expert on that. What else do we have? Dinesh D'Souza's back. He's got a film out that I want you to maybe you can watch it over Thanksgiving holiday this coming week with your family. I think it would be really The Dragon's Prophecy. You're going to enjoy discussing that with Dinesh. And then we've got some great music this weekend from Ann Wilson. So I hope that you'll stay with us. I hope you'll stay with us for the entirety of the show today. All right. If you have not yet done it, a couple of things you need to know about over at thatkevinshow.com. Number one, we're giving away a 75-inch flat screen TV and tickets to see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra on their Christmas tour, which has technically started. Most of it is still to come. Al Pitrelli is with us today. He's going to talk to us about that. But you want to win a 75-inch flat screen TV, beautiful flat screen TV, win tickets to the concert, maybe win a jacket that the band wears. All of it, we've got it all wrapped up into one package. Trans-Siberian Christmas. Go to thatkevinshow.com, hit the promotions tab, sign up to win those prizes. There's also a really cool thing that's over there that I haven't told you about, and it's called the Christmas Mortgage Miracle. It's where we will actually help pay your rent or mortgage for a good chunk of 2026, up to a certain amount every month. Even if it doesn't cover the full amount, even if it just covers a good chunk of it, wouldn't that be a Christmas Mortgage Miracle? Well named. Would you mind stopping over at thatkevinshow.com, hitting the promotions tab, and putting your, who knows, we might be paying your mortgage come the new year. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? I'm not eligible, or I would have signed up already, but I'm not. Sheri Howell's going to be back with us today. As I said, Bob Moffit, Dinesh D'Souza, Al Pitrelli, and Ann Wilson. It is a packed show. You do not want to miss our final show before the holidays kick in here at That Kevin Show. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's That Kevin Show from Times Square, thatkevinshow.com. Very glad to have you with us, and I'm very glad to welcome the Heritage Foundation's Bob Moffit to be with us. He is a longtime healthcare, health policy analyst for the Heritage Foundation, but also worked in the Reagan administration and involved in all of the healthcare debates since that time forward. Bob, it's good to have you. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Kevin. Thank you.
When we're talking about Obamacare, obviously this has been revisited because of the issue of the shutdown and kind of what the Democrats wanted to do to hold the economy hostage, if you will. I think really in many ways they didn't care about doing anything except getting those subsidies extended a little bit further. I think the subsidies were a bad idea to begin with. I run a small company. I don't need those subsidies, and I would have qualified for them. And I don't think that that's good for the economy overall. But when you look at where health policy has gotten to, especially since given that you started your time in the Reagan days and you've seen the Clinton ideas come and go. You saw George W. Bush put forward a proposal or two. You saw, obviously, Obamacare come into creation. Where are we at in terms of what we should be doing and what the biggest needs are from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, I think that this pointless, stupid shutdown is a blessing in many ways because it has put Obamacare back on the national agenda. And I think that's really necessary. And the reason for that is that Obamacare basically failed in all of its major promises. And I've got to remind you and remind your audience that when Obamacare was enacted, President Obama said that he would not sign the bill unless it would bend the cost curve downward. We would start to see a slowing of healthcare costs. Well, of course, that hasn't happened. In fact, he also made some other absurd promises. He said that the typical family in the individual market would experience a $2,500 reduction in their annual health care cost. We've seen exactly the opposite of that happening. In the last 15 years, the premiums in Obamacare jumped 133%. Twice as fast as the premium increases, for example, in employer-based health insurance. A lot of other things have followed from that. The deductibles in Obamacare are crazy. People who are, a self-only deductible is now over $7,000. For a family, it would be $14,000. So basically what has happened is we've had an explosion of cost, and that has been followed by a papering over of those costs with increasing taxpayer subsidies. Right. So we're in a world of hurt. What often is overlooked is that as time has gone on, the last 15 years, the insurance companies have decided that what they're going to do to stay competitive is to narrow their networks. What that means is they reduce the number of doctors and hospitals and clinics and home health agencies that they contract with, which has reduced the access of patients to the kind of care that they want or that they would prefer or that they need in many cases. So you've had basically an explosion of cost, a reduction in access, and it's been a disaster in that respect. Now, most people think that things are all right as long as you keep throwing money at it. But the problem is it's generating more and more revenue. But most of that money, and unfortunately, so much of that money is actually ending up in the coffers of big insurance companies, and less is going to basically beneficiaries or consumers over time. That's not my opinion. The Joint Economic Committee just issued a really devastating report that indicated that with the premium tax subsidies, roughly for every $1 that benefits a consumer, $2 benefit insurance companies and brokers. That's a mess. We've got to revisit this. We can't let this continue.
It's a mess that we were told would be solved by the solution that is now complicating the problem. And I want to get to what you started with, because I really want my viewers and my listeners to hear this clearly. And I thought at the time, because I was doing talk radio at the time, I thought at the time it felt a little used car salesman-y to me in terms of how they were couching everything from, if you like your doctor, you can keep them, to everything else. But Bob, I don't think the world, have we ever seen a side-by-side partial government takeover of a sector against a truly independent private sector set of solutions? Because in most places where healthcare becomes socialized, the government just ends up taking on the responsibility of all of it. And so all of the inefficiencies, all of the inadequacies then kind of rest on the bureaucratic administration of how you execute that plan. But here it's like you said, well, let's put it into a laboratory and let's have private sector. But what the public sector option ended up doing was ruining the private sector to amplify the problems.
Well, basically, that is what has happened. I mean, we were told, going back at the very beginning, we were promised a lot of stuff. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Healthcare costs are going to come down. We're going to have a robust, that was not my language. That was Barack Obama's language, was that we were going to have a robust, consumer-driven private sector market. My goodness, competition actually declined. Under the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare.
Well, because of the mandate. So you forced everybody to say that I need to buy stuff that I don't need. Well,
that's correct. Basically, you built into the system gross inefficiencies. You compare it, to private insurance in other areas. You've got this guy running around with the emu, Doug. It's hilarious, actually. Only pay for what you need. Well, okay, that kind of makes sense. If you're 25 years old, do you need the kind of coverage that would apply to somebody who was in their 50s and 60s? No. We're experts on this. We've studied the uninsured. We've studied the insured for a long time. We've studied the healthcare patterns, how the trends. Somebody who is in their 50s or 60s uses maybe 5 or 6 times more healthcare services than somebody in their 20s and 30s. So we've got to have a rational system. We don't have a rational system now. And that's why I say this may be a golden opportunity because we've seen this, it's all evident now that the Affordable Care Act, the way it was sold and the way it is performed, there has never been a greater disparity between the promises and the performance of a government program like we've seen with the Affordable Care Act.
Well, on that note, I want to take a break and come back, because what I'd like to do is, after we come back from this break, I'd like to ask you, if we were starting from scratch and we wiped everything off the slate, how do you build a healthcare or system that would reflect American free market values?
Oh, sure.
Efficiency back into it. But let's take this quick break. Friends, Bob Moffit is from the Heritage
Foundation doing a great job there. And friends, if you would like a copy of this podcast, you can just go to thatkevinshow.com. If you would like to rewatch any of these television episodes, you can also find that at thatkevinshow.com. All my socials are there. And don't forget, November 24th, we go live coast to coast, 2 to 4.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. It's That Kevin Show from Times Square. Glad you're with us. ThatKevinShow.com for all things associated, including the social media and podcasts and everything. We never put anything behind a paywall. We just want you to have access to it because we want to help your life be better and think more clearly. So this is how we contribute to that public conversation. Bob Moffit is with us from the Heritage Foundation. He's been studying healthcare for a long, long time. And Bob, I was just a kid when was in office, and so I don't really remember the debates about healthcare in his era, but not long after that, I know that in the Clinton era, both terms, there was discussion about how to make things more affordable. I remember Hillary Care with the kind of forcing children to get on the system, and that didn't really work. And we had 9/11, and that kind of took the whole consciousness out of everything during the Bush term. Eventually, Iraq was rolled into that. So there was kind of not really a lot of attention paid to health care. I remember being hopeful that maybe Bill Frist was going to run for president and solve the health care problem. That didn't happen. But then Barack Obama got elected, and he got elected in part, I very much believe, on the promise that he was going to provide health care for everybody and at a less expensive rate. That's blown up in our face. It's been a disaster at every turn. The mandate's been found to be unconstitutional. Therefore, kind of the mechanism that he was going to trick everybody into funding it with no longer worked. So if we wiped the chalkboard clean right now and started over at the beginning of class, what would Professor Moffit, how would you build a competitive free market but customer-oriented, low-cost healthcare plan? How would we do it?
Well, first of all, just to set the table properly, you would not do it by trying to enact a reform of 1/5 of the entire economy, right? In one big, ugly bill, 2,700-page bill that members of Congress will not read or cannot read, that is full of mysteries and mistakes. I mean, we can't have that anymore. Unintended consequences, God knows, and very unpleasant surprises. We've had all that. We have to recognize that we're dealing, as I said, with 1/5 of the entire economy. The actual number is $4.9 trillion. On a per capita basis, we're spending about $13,000 per person in the United States. So this is huge. It's a big, huge, interrelated sector of the American economy. Precisely because it's so complex, the regulation of it is always full of unintended consequences. I mean, it just happens all the time.
Sure.
So I think we have to be very, very strategic, and at the same time, we have to be very careful. What I would do is reform the system step by step, bill by bill, with full debate and deliberation on very specific changes. The central weakness in the American healthcare system, it's not even a system, but the central weakness is healthcare financing. The fact of the matter is, unlike every other sector of the economy, ordinary individuals and families have very little control in the system. All right? None. Like, for example, what kind of plan you get, what kind of medical treatments and procedures you will get in the plan, what you will pay in terms of premiums and deductibles and co-payments and co-insurance, what access you will have to doctors, hospitals, medical specialists. All of this is made by third parties or fourth parties, corporate executives, insurance executives, your employer, and now increasingly more so than ever before, federal government officials. In fact, there was a colleague of mine at the University of Pennsylvania, a great economist, Mark Pauly, said that basically 8 out of every $10 that is spent in the American healthcare system is directly or indirectly influenced by the federal government. So what do? It seems to me the first thing we do is we dedicate ourselves to the principle that individuals and families should control the flow of healthcare dollars. That means that they determine where the dollars go, whether it's in insurance or non-insurance medical expenses or whatever. So I'm in favor of either individual tax relief for health insurance, where you can pick and choose the plan that you want in a competitive market, and those plans have to compete head to head for your consumers' dollars. Insurance companies are not competitive in the United States. Instead, what we have is very, very heavy, consolidated, highly concentrated markets where it's basically oligopoly, depending upon where you are in the country. We have 2 or 3 giant insurance controlling everything. This is not a free market as we know it. You can create a free market if individuals control the dollar.
Well, Bob Moffit, let's hope that that's what we do in the very near future. It's That Kevin Show coming back from Times Square.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all things related. And if you're on thatkevinshow.com, you may see that little digital ad there off to the side that says MedJet. And you know that I am so grateful for the alliance that MedJet and That Kevin Show have been able to strike up this year through the Passport Life newsletter, but also through the Everyday Show here. And I'm reminded of how dramatic travel can sometimes be affected. I was reading FoxNews.com last night. This honeymoon couple in Jamaica completely trapped by a hurricane that Category 5, worst in 174 years. What do you do? Well, what I do, what my family does, what I've now pledged to do for the rest of my days on this earth is to have preparation going into those travel circumstances. Sheri Howell is back with us from MedJet. And Sheri, it's always a pleasure to see you. I like talking to you because we get to talk about how MedJet has helped save someone's life or get them home before a disaster or move them from a hospital to a hospital where maybe they weren't going to get the best care in the place that they were at, and now they get to go to their hospital at home. But I know that you personally, you produce a lot of the testimonial stories that you guys put up at medjet.com/Kevin. This is a much bigger need than I think people have ever realized. And you don't realize it until it's too late.
Mm-hmm. That is true. And actually, both those statements are true. I am the head of marketing, so I get to go and shoot all the testimonials of people that we have transported. And I will say that the number one consistent thing across all of them is when they describe the moment that the transport team walks into their hospital room, which is a paramedic and a critical care nurse, and say that, we're here to get you out. And they all start to cry. Yeah. It's very sweet, but it's very even I get choked up.
You have to carry a big box of Kleenex every time you go.
You really do. Yeah, it's very sweet. The relief of knowing that you are, and some of the situations are, I would say that tragedy plus time equals comedy. Some people, relive it like they're reliving a nightmare, but frequently they relive it with a very good sense of humor. Mm. So they're all very different, and all up on medjet.com/testimonials. So
if people have been following my socials in recent weeks, I've been posting these little graphics that you guys produce showing the number of miles and the number of dollars that it has cost to get someone home. And what I want everybody that's listening to understand is that if it's $15,000, if it's $48,000, if it's $85,000, $148,000, $250,000 was one of them. There's no bill that comes to the MedJet member because your membership fee, which again, plans start at about $99 a year for a single, it's covered. And Sheri, again, as we are seeing kind of in big, bold, black and white headlines across news sources, natural disasters happen. Things go bad. If you're in a hospital, in a place where these things are going on, and you're saying, I don't know if I'm going to make it here or not, MedJet is the partner you need to make sure that you can get back home okay.
Right. Well, clarification, the $99 is our 8-day short term. Annual memberships start at $315, which is nothing considering it entitles you
compared to a $250,000 trip.
Yeah, we just did 2 of those out of South Africa, and that was a lot. But those people will not see a bill. They paid for their annual membership, and we went and we got them moved to their hospital at home.
And that short-term pass, that $99 pass, that if you're just like saying, well, I want to understand what it's about, that's a perfect little way to dip your toe into it, and then you'll have that peace of mind. And here's the catch, guys, and I say this in every commercial: you have to book, you have to do it before you travel. So you got to get in advance of your trip. But that was where, Sheri, my eyes were open because I was taking the family to Italy. We were spending a small fortune on this bucket list trip to take 5 yahoos from America over to Italy and see their mom's, stomping grounds where she came from, her lineage. And the flight insurance through the airline was $2,500, $2,800. And of course I'm going to fly with that because who knows what's going to happen. But to add the MedJet for the whole family was just a little more than $500, and that's going to be with us for the entire year. So it was one of those things where I was like, this is a no-brainer. And then when you think about the potential of what it would cost you on the other end to get home, and you might not even be able to. I mean, people see it all the time. GoFundMe pages going, hey, help the Smith family because they're stuck in Peru.
With perfectly good insurance. We see those all the time, and I would never use it as a marketing slogan, but GoFundMe page should not be your backup plan. By the MedJet membership.
Yeah,
it's funny too that you bought it for Italy because a lot of times people think, oh, I'm going to Europe, it'll be perfectly fine. And they don't realize that there are, medical staff shortages, there are bed shortages. The European hospital system is incredibly stressed. We just got a guy back. I'm not sure if I told this story before, but we got a guy back recently who walked off the train platform, broke a whole bunch of stuff, very dramatic. The train was coming in. These 2 Italian guys jumped down and pulled him off the tracks. But he woke up in a hospital in Rome where nobody spoke English. They were pumping him full of all this medication that he couldn't figure out what it was. He was trying to Google Translate what he thought that they were giving him. The only person with him was like his 13-year-old daughter. And when we got him moved back to Tampa, the hospital, obviously took a look at all the stuff that they'd done to stabilize him, and the rod that they'd put in his leg was 5 inches too short. So if he'd been stuck there, that's probably what would have healed into his leg.
Well, and those of you listening and watching, I just want you to understand that MedJet has made it easier than any other program I've ever seen. It's medjet.com/Kevin. medjet.com/Kevin. See the testimonials, look at the plans, compare them. I would encourage you to do all the investigation, but I'm going to assure you of one thing. You're not going to find anything else like it anywhere. And it's one of the reasons why I proudly say I will never fly without them again. Sheri Howell, thank you so much for all that you're doing to help us. Kevin McCullough coming right back.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Jeffrey Epstein's emails confirmed everything, Donald. There's no doubt you're on his naughty list of child kissers. That's a lie. Donald was never involved with Jeffrey Epstein. You guys are just making this up like you do with everything. I thought you'd say that, JD. That's why I brought receipts. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein. It says, "Hi, Donald J. Trump. What's the J stand for, jerk? I just wanted to say that you're the worst and I hate you. I wouldn't traffic minors to you if there were a gun to my head. So do you believe me now, JD?" Donald, have you been associated with Jeffrey Epstein this whole time? Of course not, JD. All they have is Jeff hated me. They're just trying to turn you against me, JD. How do you not see that? Gosh. Oh, I want to trust you, Donald, but I don't know what to believe right now. Do you have any more proof? Besides this? We found another naughty list with Trump's name written all over it. I checked it twice myself. Santa's naughty list? Donald, your name appears on this so many times. It turns out Santa was running another child-kissing trafficking ring. It's not real, JD. Don't let them fool you. Donald, the more you resist, the more it seems like you're guilty. JD, you deserve to know the truth. Come with me and I'll show you everything I have. I've been watching Santa for a long time. You see, each year he goes to every child in the world and gives them toys. That's the perfect cover for someone trafficking minors. It's exactly how Jeffrey Epstein probably did it in my head. Okay, hang on. I thought Santa was some kind of code name, but I just realized you're actually talking about Santa Claus who's not real. I'm going home. Don't be so close-minded, JD! This is proof Donald Trump is a child kisser. Why doesn't he believe me?
Maybe it's because you guys lie and gaslight so much, everything you say seems completely made up.
2, 3, action!
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Voxtradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, a new movie and a new tour. Dinesh D'Souza and Al Pitrelli join us. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee and Al Berry. And more new music from Ann Wilson in the Spotlight. And now from Times Square, a man who's ready to take it to you 7 days a week. The question is the world ready for him? Here's Kevin!
For a Simon Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. We begin where all chaos now begins. President Donald Trump. He's defending his punishable by death comments regarding traitors caught attempting military coups, calling the Democrats' recent behavior basically a TikTok version of seditious activity. Shockingly, Democrats disagreed because the only thing punishable by death in their world is misgendering someone on public transit. Speaking of new definitions, 86 Democrats and Republicans locked arms this week to condemn socialism immediately after New York elected a literal socialist, Zohran Mamdani, proving that absolutely no one reads the news anymore, including voters. Mamdani then spent the week struggling to explain how he'll pay for free buses, which is odd since math is normally a strong suit for people who believe money materializes by manifesting good vibes. And while we're manifesting, ICE says they're prepping the largest swamp sweep in Mississippi, helping local authorities fight crime and illegal trafficking. Mississippi leaders say they'll support the federal crackdown, mostly because they just learned what ICE actually does and assumed the acronym had stood for Ice Cream Enforcement. In airport news, because chaos loves a criminal and a terminal, police in St. Louis shot a knife-wielding man at the airport, proving once again that TSA confiscates your toothpaste, but somehow lets Crocodile Dundee waltz right in with a cutlery set from Bed Bath & Beyond. Meanwhile, the economy, or whatever remains of it after Bidenomics, continues to sparkle like cubic zirconia on QVC. Economists warn that Trump's proposed $2,000 tariff for taxpayers might carry a hefty price tag. Yes, experts warn Americans may soon face the horror of paying $3 more for a blender they'll use twice, store forever, right next to the fondue set. Internationally, Zelensky warns Ukraine may face tough choices, especially after the U.S. peace plan hit what diplomats call a major hurdle, which is foreign policy code for nobody has the faintest clue what they're doing and everyone's pretending. Some cultural whiplash this weekend. The internet burst into flames after Rachel Maddow attended Dick Cheney's funeral, which proves America has officially run out of things to be angry about. Social media users asked if Maddow and Cheney are now friends. Yes, and next week we're expecting Liz Warren and Ted Cruz to pair for pickleball doubles. In Hollywood, Reese Witherspoon offered some financial advice, saying she's made a lot of mistakes earlier in her career. Same, Reese. My first big one was believing gluten-free bread could ever taste like actual bread. And finally, Paulina Poroskova, stripped to her underwear at age 60, celebrating imperfections, or so she said. America applauded loudly because it's nice to remember imperfect bodies still exist in a world where Instagram has more filters than Flint, Michigan. For a Simon Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
These can't be on that whole year. I was thinking, is it like chicken from Malibu? Can I just say, I am so happy to finally have the whole family together again. It's been a couple of years since, the incident.
Was that when everyone got angry because you said that leaving the fridge open for more than 10 seconds was melting the polar ice caps, and you called Aunt Kathy a filthy con?
Okay, you know what? Let's not bring that up. It's water under the bridge. Let's not bring up anything political or controversial today. Just food, family, and fun times.
Exactly. We're all grown adults. We can have respectful, civil conversations.
That's right. We just have very diverse opinions on matters that shouldn't even be remotely controversial for any rational human being.
Auntie Kathy, what were you saying about that shooter guy the other day?
Oh yeah, the right-wing nut job.
Yeah, he's about as right-wing as Mitt Romney.
CNN said he was a right-wing MAGA extremist.
He was a member of Antifa.
Do you even know what Antifa means? It literally means anti-fascist. Are you anti-fascist?
No, I'm actually anti-fascist, which is why I'm anti-Antifa.
Well, agree to disagree.
I disagree to agree.
Well, hey, at least we can all agree that inflation's under control.
From printing $6 trillion in 3 years.
That was for COVID, when Trump was president.
Look, it was good when Trump did it, not when Biden did it.
Well, I heard it was actually the lizard people that were manipulating the global market. Isn't that right, Grandpa?
Lizard people? Where?
Pouring over the southern border, terrorizing y'all's neighborhoods.
Don't even get me started on the border crisis.
There was never a crisis.
6 million people crossed the border last year! And 3 million of them were terrorists!
That is some Fox News conspiracy.
No, that's a statistic from the DHS! It's literal math! Except for the terrorist thing, it's a rough guesstimation.
Agree to disagree.
On math?
I have heard enough! You guys gotta stop. We cannot do this again. We cannot let the lizard people win. There's one now!
Okay, you know what? You're right. About the first part. We cannot let politics come in front of our family. Mark, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too. Nothing's more important than family. So, it's nice weather we're having. Go ahead, Kathy.
You mean the existential climate emergency threatening literally everyone on the planet?
No, I mean, it's 75 and sunny outside, so.
The globe is warming and cooling at the same time. That's not natural. They're saying we only have years if we don't take action now.
Who's they?
The Jews!
Scientists!
The same scientists that say that men can become women?
Agree to disagree.
On science?
Look, I am not a biologist, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I understand the science.
I bet you don't get it, because you're vaccinated.
Trump stole the election.
Biden stole it first.
Trump is in league with the Rush.
Trump stopped us from an adrenochrome-fueled cabal that was trying to destroy the globe.
You're both wrong. It's the chemtrails.
It's okay, Grandpa. Come on, I'll take you home.
Your hair color's about as real as the moon landing.
Basketball? Nope, it's just my
Beak
brother Mark.
that came from a cow, a living creature.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com. Always glad to interact with anybody who wants to be there. Social media, podcasts, everything all in one spot. There are a few things that have impacted our lives in the last few years, like October 7th has, and for my Jewish friends in particular. I think in a lot of ways, October 7th eclipses 9/11 in terms of historical significance and importance. And as I am having this conversation with you right now, a deal has been announced by President Trump, but it has not yet been accepted by Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu's on board with it, but will it bring an ultimate end to the war in Gaza? We don't know. But we are all hoping for the best. But what does October 7th mean in terms of historical context? And are there larger spiritual implications? That is kind of the idea of a new film from one of my favorite documentarians, Dinesh D'Souza, who rejoins us here at Kevin McCullough. Dinesh, always good to see you. Thanks for making some time for us.
It's my pleasure. I'm very excited about the new film. And like you say, it is an attempt to show why October 7th is not just another terrorist event or even an historic event. It's really a biblical event. And so are all the events unfolding in the Middle East now. They are anticipated in Bible prophecy. They have parallels in some of the ancient battles fought by the Israelites against their kind of classic enemies. And all of this, I think, is depicted with a freshness and a power in this film that I'm very proud of.
I want to talk about kind of your approach to it, because a lot of people, if they're familiar with your filmmaking, they know you for being kind of the guy that makes the documentary that nobody else makes about the political and kind of cultural zeitgeists that are happening, et cetera. This is a distinctively kind of different feel for you in terms of how it's made. You engaged someone who has been even quite controversial himself, Jonathan Cahn, but who's written a lot and talked a lot about some of these types of things, images from the Old Testament, symbolism, et cetera. But I want to know, Dinesh, beyond all that, what was it about October 7th for you that said this is the film that needs to be made? Because I know that you like to throw curveballs in at the last minute, and sometimes we see things from your films that we don't see from others.
This film developed sort of in three stages. My wife and I discovered biblical archaeology at the end of 2022. And we're talking here about stones and inscriptions and seals coming out of the ground for the first times in thousands of years. And these are confirming and ratifying the historicity, the accuracy of both the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures. I mean, amazing stuff. For centuries, people like King David, Jeremiah, Isaiah, even Pontius Pilate, they were in the Bible, but they were only in the Bible. You couldn't corroborate them by any external evidence, but now you can. So I was excited and interested in all this. I realized that it not only shows that the Bible is accurate, but it also shows the presence of the Jews in their ancestral homeland, going back 3,000 years or more. And then along comes October 7th. And I was thinking about these two things together, and I realized that the biblical archaeology belongs in a discussion of October 7th. Why? Because the underlying question is, whose land is it? And then along comes Jonathan Cahn with some very startling statements like, listen, the battle between Israel and Hamas is a recreation, he calls it a resurrection, of ancient battles between the Israelites and the Philistines. And then he goes on to trace how the name Philistine, the name Palestine, it's really the same name. It's the same word. But more than that, there is a parallelism of tactics. If I can give the example of Samson in the Bible, Samson is the hero representing the strength of Israel. He's captured by the Philistines. They blind him in much the same way that Israel was, quote, blinded on October 7th. The Bible says they drag him back where? To Gaza. The Philistines controlled what they called Philistia, but the main city in Philistia was Gaza. And then the Bible says the people of Gaza demanded that Samson be stripped and brought out for their, quote, entertainment. And sure enough, right after October 7th, hostages are paraded in Gaza. They're stripped. You have people dancing around them, Allahu Akbar. So, you know, what Khan says, and I found this a very memorable statement, he goes, Samson is the first hostage of Gaza. Boom. And I'm like, wow, this is really a enlarged, novel, interesting way to look at this. So my mind is secular. I mean, I wanted to bring in the biblical archaeology because I know there are going to be people who go, well, yeah, Dinesh, but how do we know the Bible is interesting, but how do we know it's true? So I go beyond Khan's book to incorporate, you can say, the verification of scripture, and then I've got a one-on-one with Netanyahu, a one-on-one with our ambassador Huckabee. There's just a lot in this film, but woven together, I think, into a very ultimately uplifting tapestry.
It is interesting because in the aftermath of October 7th and then Trump's election, and Governor has done my show every Friday for the last several years. And as both of us being born again Christians, we talk a lot on air and off about the times that we live in. And Dinesh, I don't know about you specifically, but when October 7th went down, I think a lot of Christians were asking themselves that larger question. Is this in some way a sign of the end times? Are there things that are pointing to another section of biblical prophecy beginning to unfold, etc.? I'm curious, after making the film, after looking at all this, how do you see the end of days? How do you kind of view Revelation? What's been a movement, if there has been, in your positioning on anything?
Well, I try to view it not through kind of, let's just say, a particularist lens that tries to describe blow by blow what's going to happen next. My view is that the book of Revelation is, perhaps deliberately somewhat veiled, somewhat obscure. However, there are some large biblical signposts or landmarks that you can't miss. The convergence of the Jews back in their ancestral homeland. That's a big one. The Bible predicts it. It is extremely implausible, and yet it happened. I also think that it's very clear that in the end times, both God and Satan will be like on the move. And I think what we're seeing, and this is the underlying premise of the film, that people talk about underneath our political war is a cultural war, and underneath that is a spiritual war. But nobody typically asks, well, who's fighting? Who is this war between, right?
It's true.
Well, the two combatants are God and the dragon. That's the meaning, by the way, of the title, The Dragon's Prophecy. The dragon refers to Satan. And since Satan is not as strong as God, Satan relies on imitating God's tactics. So God resurrects the Jews. Satan goes, let me resurrect some of the enemy peoples of Israel. Fascinating concept. Also, Satan picks on the people that God likes, because then Satan can kind of have the last laugh on God. So in Genesis 1, why does Satan pick on Adam and Eve? What have they done to him? Nothing. But Satan's point is, if I get them, this is the cherished creation of God, I'm going to get a big ha 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 on God. I think for the same reason Satan targets the Jews. If they're the people of God, Satan is like, all right, let me destroy them. Let me push them out from the river to the sea. Let me take their Solomonic temple. going back 3,000 years and stick a Muslim victory arch on top of it called the Dome of the Rock, and with the Al-Aqsa Mosque as its adjunct. I mean, yes, I do think that all of this is outlined.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. You see him nightly on the Salem News Channel. If you subscribe to his podcast, you see him in your inbox. But Dinesh D'Souza, one of our favorite thinkers around these parts, and Dinesh has done many important documentary films. But I'm curious, Dinesh, as to where you would rank the Dragon's Prophecy, and we want to send people to make sure that they see it. I'm going to ask you to tell us. There's a number of ways that they can see it in the next few days. I don't want to make sure everybody knows all those, but thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Dragons is plural. Dragonsprophecyfilm.com when you go there. But Dinesh, where would you, because it is so kind of distinct from your political documentaries in terms of the overarching tone of this, and I think in a lot of ways it's a lot more important.
No, I agree. I think that my earlier films in some ways are all about the meaning of America. My film on Obama, on Hillary, 2000 Mules, of course, focusing on election issues. So I have not done a global film like this. I haven't taken it abroad. And here I am making, you could say, the moral case for Israel from a biblical point of view, but also from an America First point of view. There are some people, I think, on the right who think America First means America only. And I also think that there is this somewhat rabid and very destructive hatred toward Israel and toward the Jews that is poisoning the MAGA coalition and threatening to fracture it, to actually break it apart.
I hope you're wrong on that, but I fear that you are right.
Yes, and it's not just an ideological divide, it's also a generational divide. And so we have these sort of, young people these days, and they're spouting just the absolute not just ignorant, but just malicious lies. And I don't blame them, because a lot of them are dysfunctional kids. They're raised in problematic environments. They don't see a lot of opportunity. So they are ripe for anti-Semitism. But what I do blame are the Pied Pipers, the sort of influential people on the right who are leading them down this destructive road. And like I say, it's not just bad for Israel. It's not just bad for America. It is also bad for the Republican Party. It's bad for Trump. It's bad for America First.
Well, I think that there's a lot of confusion about the Israel issue in general when it comes to the MAGA position, because of what you've identified. The idea that America needs to be the first has been interpreted as kind of the only priority. Even President Trump hasn't approached it from that viewpoint. I mean, I was watching the press conference with Bibi Netanyahu, and again, as we are taping this, Hamas has not agreed to the ceasefire yet, so it could just be another exercise in futility. But it is very obvious, and Bibi was not shy about saying it, that there's been no friend to Israel stronger than Donald Trump, particularly in the modern era. So I think that that's a pretty if MAGA should be reflecting what the president is about, standing with Israel is where we should be.
No question about it. Look, we give, $3.8 billion in aid to Israel, and it's a lot of money, but it's not a big fraction of our foreign aid budget. In fact, it's about 5%. We give lots of money to people who hate us, who give us the middle finger, who haven't done a thing for us. It looks to me like if we evaluate our sort of ROI, our return on investment with Israel, these guys are on the front lines of fighting radical Islam, and they do it with a brilliance that we cannot even hope to match. Look at that stuff with the pagers, Hey, Abdul, you ready for the next jihad? Boom. I wish our CIA could pull off stuff like this, but I don't think they can. They certainly never have. So here's Israel. They're taking on the radicals in Yemen, in the Sudan, in Turkey, in Qatar. They're doing it, and we don't know how to do it. I mean, look at the way Jimmy Carter pulled the Persian rug out from the Shah. We got Khomeini. We helped radical Islam get a hold of a major state.
Blew them in.
After 9/11, we bombard the Taliban. They all run into the mountains. But guess what? 20 years later, they're back. We botched the situation in Israel. Obama hands over Egypt to the Muslim Brotherhood. So look at our dismal record versus. So it just looks to me like the little Satan, Israel, is doing a heck of a job, and we, the big Satan, need to get behind them.
Well, and I think that we have some clarity, at least in the White House, for the time being on that note. I am curious about one other thing. And again, I haven't viewed the entire film yet. Do the Abraham Accords play into this narrative in any way that you and Jonathan discuss in any detail?
Not in detail, but I think the relevance of the Abraham Accords is that they do demonstrate that our fight is with radical Islam and not necessarily with Islam itself. We're not fighting the Muslims in Indonesia.
Dinesh, just keep telling the truth and keep making people think through story. I think it's one of the most powerful ways that we can get truth across. And there's not enough people doing it, but you are, and we're grateful.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, That Kevin Show for all the social and everything. You can get the podcast, everything there. We never put it behind a paywall because we just want you to have access to it. One of my favorite times of the year is upon us. In fact, I've just been counting down the days till I can be done with Halloween so that we can crack out the Christmas records and start going all holiday on everybody. And one of my favorite things to do each year is to visit with Al Pitrelli of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, who rejoins us. Al, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. How you been?
Good. Now, last year when you were with us, you were kind of excited because you were bringing back kind of a classic TSO night. And you've got some surprises in store for this year. I want to get to all of it, but how you feeling as we're moving into the actual real holiday season now?
I start to get excited, and I dig in a little bit deeper work-wise as soon as I hit the runway here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is where we do our production rehearsals.
Right.
So for the past, 10 months or so, 9.5 months, it's been a lot of conversations, a lot of head scratching, a lot of deconstruction, reconstruction. And everybody goes, are you ready? Are you looking forward to it? I'm like, no, not yet. But when I get here and I see the entirety of the production in the arena just across the river, is when I start going, all right, this is becoming real quick.
How much of the show is new each year?
The story is the familiar portion of the show, and we have several stories that we've been able to do over the past almost 3 decades now. But I made a point with my managers and my lighting designer, or I should say our lighting designer, that I wanted everything as different as humanly possible this year. And you and I were just chatting about that before we started rolling.
Right.
There's a very large group of people in the audience that I affectionately refer to as the repeat offenders.
They're just the ones that make it a holiday tradition. That's. Yeah.
And they've been coming back for years. I mean, if we did our first bunch of shows back in '99 and they were there and they had their small children with them, 20-something years later, they're bringing their grandchildren with them.
Right. So the children are bringing the children now.
Right. It's become a generational tradition now, which I'm very proud of. I mean, it's so flattering, but for me, that's a huge responsibility, because if they ever walked out of the building and said, it was, the same as last year, or it wasn't as good as last year, or it was okay, that'll break my heart, right? So for the entirety of this year, we've been scratching our heads. How do I put the repeat offenders in particular back on their heels from the very first downbeat? Okay. Now, the first timers, they don't know what to expect anyway. You know, Kevin? They don't know if they're coming to see some Russian orchestra, some classical, whatever it is they think this is, it's incorrect.
Correct.
You know, but about half of the people in that building have been coming back year after year after year, and we worked really, really hard. From the minute the lights, the curtain comes up, house lights go down, and the stage gets lit up, I want everybody to go, what happened? Where is everybody? You know? And then proceed with a bunch of material that we've never, ever done live before, and some things we haven't done probably in, 15, 20 years.
Wow. Well, you're kicking it off November 13th in Green Bay. You'll do dates in California, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Illinois, Texas. You're coming to the tri-state area. You're going to be at RPAC here in the New York City area. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us? Well, are there things you can tell us about this year's show that if people are on the fence that they'll say, oh, like this, I've got to see that?
Yeah. We did a movie in 1998 called The Ghosts of Christmas Eve. It was a fantastic film, which really, it was one of those things in Paul O'Neill's mind that he saw the big picture. He knew what he wanted to do. We were like, okay, let's make a movie. You know, we had a couple records out, sold, millions and millions of records. And I think I jokingly had mentioned to you last time we chatted that I felt like I was in the Steely Dan of Christmas, you know. We're not touring. We don't tour. We make great records with orchestras and choirs and, fantastic stuff. Now we're going to put it to film. And literally in a very short period of time, that film on Hallmark and some PBS stations became a lot of people's go-to holiday film to watch. Like when I was a kid, Charlie Brown or
right.
And it's like, wow, they really love this story. And it's a combination of songs from the first two Christmas records that Paul rewrote an entire story to use those pieces. And they loved it. So that's what we're going to bring back this year, The Ghost of Christmas Eve, albeit with brand new technology, special effects that the crew has put together. Just fantastic stuff. So that's the familiar portion that everybody goes, well, I want to go there. I want to, have my story. People relate to the story. They enjoy the story. And then everything else on both sides of that is completely different.
Wow.
We're going to perform. We're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the release of Beethoven's Last Night, that collection. And in order to kind of pay our respects to Paul O'Neill's arrangements of the great composer's work, we want to do like a 5-song set in the second half of the show, which we've never done any of the Beethoven stuff, as a piece on a winter tour. So that's the first time. So, if you've seen us in the past, and you're kind of like you had said, if you're on the fence, I promise you that we work real hard to surprise everybody this year.
Fall off on the side of going because you're not going to be disappointed. Let me quickly ask the combining of the classic with the contemporary rock and the kind of in-your-face grit that it obviously brings with it. It from the very first album, it is something that grabbed my ears and said, wow, this is completely different. But whose inspiration was it to combine those two? Because, in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't really cool to, you were either a cool musician, meaning you listened to rock, or you were a stuffy musician and you had the classical station on. You guys said there is wonderful things about both of these, and you put them into one genre. Yeah. Well, I'm going to just say Paul O'Neill, excuse me, the gentleman who created this whole thing, and you just kind of hit it on the head. You got the rock guys who were just, if you were a teenager in the 70s, what was probably one of the bigger forms or more popular forms of music back then was what was referred to as Southern rock. Mm-hmm. You had Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, Charlie Daniels. They were the top of the charts back then. And I was a student of that style of music. Now, I grew up in a household where my dad was a big band guy. Tommy Dorsey, Frank Sinatra was always being played. Yep. The soundtracks to, the musicals, West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein's beautiful collection, Rodgers and Hammerstein. This was all the music that was kind of floating around my house and AM radio before the advent of FM radio. Friends, it's going to be phenomenal. Again, the dates begin November 13th, and they run pretty much up to the middle of December. The Ghosts of Christmas Eve, the Best of TSO, and more. It's all this year. You can go to trans-siberian.com for tickets, trans-siberian.com. If you go to thatkevinshow.com, I've got a link over there. You can go straight from my website as well.